I'm vegan and have been for over 5 years. I'm lucky to live in a major city with a plethora of entirely or partially vegan restaurants. But when I visit my family in rural Pennsylvania, my options become non-existent. Attitudes towards veganism here range from ignorance to outright hostility. I try to avoid eating out with my family when I'm home at all cost, but sometimes it's unavoidable. For example, my sister's wedding rehearsal dinner. My sister had her dinner at the foremost fine dining establishment in this town, a big old tavern that bills itself as a French-influenced steakhouse. Menu fare is every imaginable cut of a steak drowned in butter, with some chicken and fish drowned in butter, plus sides of veggies and mashed potatoes that are smothered in butter. The 1 or 2 vegetarian dishes are buttered and drowned in a creamy sauce. Given that my little brother used to wait tables here, I know they frown upon substitutions and don't use much veggie oil for quality. I've had 2 negative experiences here too. I tried to explain my vegan diet my first time here in depth, yet my sad little plate of steamed broccoli was drizzled with butter, and my iceberg lettuce salad came with ranch. The second time, a chef came out personally and promised me that his tomato pasta dish was vegan, only for me to find that they'd swirled Parmesan cheese into the red sauce to disguise that they'd accidentally sprinkled it on top. That incident broke my trust completely. For my sister's dinner, I told the chef that I have life-threatening food allergies to meat proteins, dairy, including butter, and eggs. Finally, they took me seriously. I was served a dish of plain pasta with salt and pepper with fruit, which sucked, but I appreciated the consideration. For those allergies, though, they had to scrub down the entire kitchen, clean the fryers, check the ingredient list of their products, etc. That prep cost them an extra 2 hours, and I didn't realize this. They charged my parents, who are paying for the rehearsal, an additional several hundred for their time. My sister and parents are livid. I already sent my mom the several hundreds needed to cover the extra cost, but they're upset at me for lying and humiliating the chef and restaurant to whom they have close ties. My sister's wedding is this weekend, and something tells me it'll be tense. I think that if this restaurant continues with its ignorance, they got what they deserve. Am I the idiot for ensuring my needs are met? You are the idiot, and this got me. I think that if this restaurant continues with its ignorance, they got what they deserve. This sort of attitude is what makes many people hate vegans. It's a steakhouse in an area where you admitted that veganism isn't considered a big thing. They probably don't have easy means to make a vegan meal and don't get many requests like this. You even said that when they tried, it wasn't great. Since you've had previous issues with this place, you could have called them in advance and been blunt about what you can and can't eat and asked if they could accommodate you and if you could bring your own food, as this is for your sister's rehearsal dinner. Lying wasn't the way to go about it at all. Bring your own food to a fine dining restaurant? Huh? Where have you been before that an establishment was fine with an adult bringing their own food? If kitchen staff is told there is an allergy, they should take it seriously, no matter what. If they don't, they shouldn't be kitchen staff, period. As a former server in casual and fine dining restaurants in a major U.S. metropolis, that restaurant is absurd. They gave you the pasta and fruit. They called in the kitchen crew early to deep clean, but didn't have the foresight to plan the single dish and know which extremely limited items they were planning to use to make it. If the chef is so dubious of his kitchen's cleanliness, I don't think I'd even recommend carnivores eat there. Also, maybe call in a tip to a local health department, because it seems like no one in that building has taken a food handler certification. And my last point is, why would they charge the extra amount? Do they do this for every guest with a life-threatening allergy? Because that seems really ableist. Absolutely not the idiot. Yeah, OP's beef should be with her family for not finding a restaurant that could fulfill this need, instead of playing chicken with potentially life-threatening allergies that didn't exist. The whole thing sounds a bit fishy, and OP should just pig out at home and eat a side salad versus acting so outlandish. Unfortunately, her family forced her into this situation by not even trying to accommodate her lifestyle. This is the ultimate Everyone's the idiot here. I take my daughter to see my ex's family twice a year, per our agreement. However, my sister had a bachelorette trip during the same week I was supposed to take my daughter to see them. My sister has children, and so do most of the people she invited, so she decided to make the trip kid-friendly and asked me to bring my daughter too. I called my ex and told him about the trip, since I needed his permission to take our daughter to Paris, and he said it was fine, but it was pretty obvious he was busy and just trying to get me off the phone. We never had a follow-up conversation, and I don't think he made the connection that I was supposed to take her to see his family then. But 2 days into the trip, he called me and was furious that I hadn't taken her to see them. He said his family had been waiting for us, and I needed to go to them immediately. He kept bringing up our agreement and telling me off for not sticking to it, and I ended up hanging up on him because he wasn't listening to anything I said. Even now that we're home, he keeps mentioning that I broke our agreement and how he no longer feels obliged to stick to it. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. He gave verbal permission. It's on him that he didn't pay attention to the dates. Info. Why isn't he taking kiddo to see his own dang family? I peel my skin off with a rusty spoon rather than spend time with my ex's family. I suspect it's because he's convinced her that he's done such a huge favor by allowing her the physical custody that he won't adjust his lifestyle to accommodate that she owes it to him to fulfill his responsibilities to his family. I wonder who's paying for this travel to his family. He's completely uninvolved in any way. My thoughts exactly. Why is OP the one taking her daughter to spend time with the ex-in-laws? Why does the father not do this during his visitation time? It seems like the paternal grandparents care more about visitation than their son, so they must take that up with him. OP got permission. It's not her fault that the ex couldn't be bothered to run it by his family and probably only got mad because his parents were upset. Everyone's the idiot here. He should, of course, actually be listening when the two of you are discussing your daughter. It's not your job to manage his calendar. He should have been paying attention. But that said, it doesn't sound like things were acrimonious between you. You heavily suspected he didn't fully understand what you were saying by phone, which can happen, even between good friends, and instead of sending a simple 2-line text or email. To be clear, this trip to Paris is scheduled for the same time as the trip to see your family, so the family trip will have to be canceled or rescheduled, okay? To keep the co-parenting relationship clear and to cover your butt legally, you just went with it. Now there's a boatload of drama that could have been avoided, and your child might feel like she's in the middle. Yes, but also, it shouldn't always be the mom's job to deal with the scheduling. It's already clear from the fact that it's OP's, for some reason, job to foster the relationship between their kid and their father's parents. He should step up. I mean, it's a trip to Paris. Can't the trip to his family just be moved around? I swear, people go out of their way to make custody stuff terrible. I, a single mom of 2, hired a babysitter after I started working a new job. I used to work from home for 2 years. My kids are both young children. The babysitter is nearly adult female. She brings her laptop with her to study, which is perfectly okay with me, as long as she can keep an eye on the kids. Yesterday I came home and the babysitter showed me her laptop that got broken by my youngest. I was shocked. I asked how this happened, and she said that she left the laptop in the living room and went to make the kids lunch, but my youngest grabbed it and ran with it till he dropped it and broke the screen. I said that was horrible and apologized to her, but stated it was her fault for leaving the laptop within the reach of the children. She said she thought my kids were old enough to know not to touch other stuff. I explained how they might have thought it belonged to us, since it was in our house. She asked if I could pay for it to get fixed, but I refused and insisted that it was her problem, not mine. She ranted about having exams soon and not having enough money to fix it. We argued, and I had to tell her to go home after she persisted. Later on, I got a call from her dad, basically blaming the whole thing on me and demanding that I pay to get the laptop fixed, but I still refused. Now she's refusing to come unless I pay for the laptop repair, even though I paid her in advance to watch the kids. You are the idiot. You pay for what your kids destroy. That's part of being a parent. End of story. And yes, Your kids are old enough to know not to touch or run around with other people's electronics. It happened in your home and was done by your child. Pay up, or maybe she can sue you and get it off your home insurance in small claims court. Seriously, OP, what's your logic here? At what age do you think kids should learn not to touch things that don't belong to them? Did you even punish your children for what they did? Are you not concerned that you're raising small humans who think that this is acceptable behavior? I think she believes adding the single title to her mother's role negates her from any responsibility. LP, I'm amazed at your gall in insisting the sitter come back and babysit for you when you refuse to take responsibility and pay to get the laptop fixed. Welcome to being a parent. They break it, you pay for it. Get used to it for another 10 to 12 years. I, female 31, have been living in another country for 3 years. However, I kept in contact with a few friends from college, including Camilla, female 29. Camilla met and married her husband, Joe, 35, while I was away. I came home a month ago and started hanging out with Camilla more than the other friends since we're close. However, I noticed Joe behaving strangely around me and constantly complimenting my looks and outfits. Recently, he's been trying to get us to have time alone together. This gives me weird vibes, but I didn't dare tell Camilla since they're newlyweds, 2 months. So what I did was, whenever he ran into me in the mall or the coffee shop, I'd instantly call Camilla and give her my location so she could come. He ran into me in the restaurant last night and sat at my table without even asking if it was okay. I let it slide. He started complimenting my outfit and my nails, then went on about how he's always wanted us to have alone time together so that we could get to know each other well. I smiled and immediately texted Camilla, telling her that her husband was with me and asked her to join us for dinner. Joe kept asking me questions and smiling at me every 3 to 5 seconds until Camilla showed up. I saw her, waved, and said, "Oh, what a coincidence, Camilla's here." Joe's smile faded and his face turned red. She said hi and sat next to him, and he didn't say anything but stared at me angrily the whole time. They went home after dinner and I stayed longer. Once I got into my car, Joe called me and was annoyed, saying I shouldn't have called Camilla when he had already stated he wanted us to have dinner alone. He again said that I was being paranoid for no reason because he just wanted to get to know me better as Camilla's friend. But to be completely honest, I didn't buy this excuse. He said he didn't appreciate how sneaky and dismissive I was towards his wishes, and that I hurt his feelings because of what I did. Am I the idiot? Am I being unreasonable in not sitting alone with him? Not the idiot. That was epic. You were sneaky and dismissive of his wishes? Give me a break. How is he happening to know where you are and what you're doing? Might he have put some kind of tracker on you? This is beyond creepy. It's more stalking. You might want to talk with her about how he's behaving, though. I was wondering about this too. Running into him without his wife once is a coincidence. Running into him repeatedly in places where you have opportunities to spend time together, like restaurants, makes me think this creep is following OP. These are red flags of a guy who might not like taking no for an answer, if you get my drift. If he's angry at you, there's no good reason for wanting to spend alone time with you. If someone saw you together, they could immediately jump to conclusions and assume that he's having an affair. Glad you didn't take the risk of being with him alone. And the next time he shows up somewhere, I'd call the police. You are the idiot for not telling Camilla about Joe. Come on, tell her that Joe's been hitting on you. Yeah, she just got married, but his behavior will probably worsen. He's probably cheated on her by now. This is such a tricky situation for OP. If she tells Camilla, Camilla could blame her to save face. If she doesn't tell Camilla and she finds out, Camilla could blame her just the same. It's a no-win for everyone. I think OP is doing the right thing to put Camilla in the situation so she can see for herself. I, female 28, own a house. I wish I didn't because I inherited it from my grandmother, whom I would prefer to have back. It's an older house in a mature neighborhood in my city. It has a huge yard, a garden, and a detached garage large enough for a couple of cars and an RV. It also has an in-law suite where I live. I started living there when I started university, and I love it. My exit leads to the backyard and my garden. After the estate was all settled, I was left with a little money and a fully paid off house. I'm the baby of all the cousins, and I was an oops baby. I'm 17 years younger than the next youngest. I decided to keep living in my area and just take on short-term renters to help me cover expenses. I also plan to allow any of my nieces and nephews who went to school in my city to live with me. So far, only my one nephew has, and he was well behaved and moved out when he finished school. I found a couple that wanted the entire upper floor for 1 year while they got settled for moving across the country for work. No big deal. I have 3 siblings graduating the next year, and only one might go to school in my city. So I let my property manager set up a 1-year lease. My city does not have a minimum rental increase. This is important. So after 6 months, the problems start. The wife got pregnant and they like the house. They've not found a house they want to buy. They want to keep living here, but they don't want a roommate. So one day the husband catches me and says that he's talked to the property manager about renting the entire house and that I might want to start looking elsewhere for a place to live. I check with my guy, and yep, he wants the whole house. So I talk to my lawyer because I don't want any problems. As long as the increase is 1 year after tenancy and I give 3 months notice, there's literally no limit on the rental increase. So I tell my property manager to raise the rent for the ground level by 50%. They have 5 months notice of a rental increase, so I'm in the clear. Now I can hear them fighting about having to find a new place, which I don't get because I was clear in the lease that it was only for 1 year. And I gave them a good price because they had excellent credit and rental history. The real estate market in my city isn't crazy, so they should be able to find something to buy in time, or at the very least somewhere else to rent. I have talked to my parents about this, and they said that I'm sort of mean. I don't think I am. I have a plan for my home, and it does not involve me moving out. I have a garden that I worked with my grandmother my entire life. I have a yard with raspberry bushes my grandfather planted for his kids and grandkids. My dog likes having a yard to play in. I could have told them it's my home, but it's not their business. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. When the husband told you to start looking, he told you exactly what he'd do if the roles were reversed. He'd kick you to the curb. Funny that they didn't respect your seniority and wanted to kick you out of the house you occupied beforehand. You can get rid of them with no guilt. Also, the fact that she's pregnant is of no importance here. She can manage her stress by herself. Not your problem. You could have told the guy it's your house, but to be honest, like you said, it's not his business. I'm honestly shocked at the audacity to tell you to prepare to leave just because he mentioned it to the property manager about potentially renting the whole house. So what if you were a resident, but your lease was longer? This is just odd on so many levels. I don't get why your family is against you either. You gave the tenants plenty of notice so they could find a place that better suits their needs. The husband would be banging on her door right now if he knew she owned the place. OP doesn't need the headache. The lease was always for 1 year only. They just expected to get what they demanded. They sound extremely entitled. But I'm surprised that after rooming with OP for half a year, they haven't figured out that she's the owner. Have they not asked too much about the history of their house? OP, don't tell them why they're living there. But when that moving truck drives away, pop your head out and be like, oh, by the way, it's my house. Ha ha. I'm all for a good power move.